Laila, the Space Dog. This is First Hero in Outer Space by Jeni Wittrock, illustrated by Shannon Toth. Through the streets, alleyways, and markets of Moscow, a small curly-tailed stray trotted warily. Every day, little Laila rummaged for food and refuge for the night. It was late summer 1956. The Soviet Union prepared to launch Sputnik, the world's first satellite, into orbit. But street dogs like Laila knew nothing about her space. What Laila wanted was food. When a quiet man approached her, the little dog eyed him carefully. He held out a morsel of food in one hand. But what was in the other hand? Was this a friend? Laila crept toward the treat. She could almost reach the meat. Then, whoosh, went the dog catcher's net. Laila yipped. She struggled to get free, but it was no use. She was caught. In a rumbling truck, the dog catcher brought Laila to the Institute of Aviation Medicine. The laboratory housed street dogs to be used in scientific tests and missions. While lab dogs were given food and shelter, they lost all freedom. A hard road lay ahead for Laila. Life as a lab dog was difficult. Machines tested how Laila handled extreme speed, pressure, vibration, and noise, and sometimes she was held in a very tiny cage for days at a time. She learned to live in a very small space. Dr. Oleg Gazenko and the trainers at the Institute liked Laila. She stayed calm and always did what they asked. The trainers called her Kudryavka, which is Russian for Little Curly, and she was nicknamed Lemonchik, Little Lemon, and Zuchka, Little Bug. Soon Laila became one of 3 dogs considered for a special new mission. A second Soviet satellite, Sputnik 2, would be launched in less than a month, and this time there would be a dog on board. While Laila was finishing her training, Sputnik 2 was quickly being built. No person or animal had orbited in outer space yet, and scientists were unsure if it was safe. Smaller rockets had flown dogs, mice, monkeys, and rabbits to high altitudes, but none had left Earth's atmosphere. Laila saw other dogs leave for rocket test flights. Some of them never came back. Scientists wanted to learn how space travel would affect the animal's body. A special spacesuit was made just for Laila. It would help her body adjust to changes in pressure, and machines would record Laila's heartbeat, blood pressure, and movements. In late October, Sputnik 2 was almost ready. A new cabin would be attached below the new satellite, and it was just big enough for a small dog to sit, stand, and move around a little. A machine was added to dispense food. On October 25, 1957, a radio report informed the world of Laila's daring mission. Laila had been chosen to travel to outer space in Sputnik 2. Soviet audience listens as Laila barked into a microphone. On October 31, 1957, Dr. Gazenko and the trainer suited up Laila one last time. Her handlers said a teary goodbye and wished their little Curly the best of luck. Strapped inside her tiny cabin, Laila watched them walk away. Laila waited alone in her little cabin, and finally she was transported to the launch pad and prepared for liftoff. Nearly 4 days passed before Sputnik 2 was ready to launch. On November 3rd, 1957, the rocket's engines roared to life. The noise became loud, louder than deafening, and in a fiery blast, Sputnik 2 lifted off the launch pad. Laika's heart pounded, and then she barked in fear. The noise was almost unbearable. Even her training had not been like this, but there was no turning back. A small crowd watched as the gleaming Soviet spacecraft sped up through the sky and out of sight. People across the Soviet Union cleared for one brave pup, the world's first true astronaut. Scientists received the report Sputnik 2 sent down to Earth. Laika's heart rate, blood pressure, and movements showed she had completed her mission. A little stray, the world called Laika, whirled around the planet at 18,000 miles, or 28,968 kilometers per hour. A few hours into her flight, the cabin began to overheat. There was nothing Laika could do. Her body gave in to heat and fright, and for Laika, the trip had ended. But this tiny hero paved the way for many human astronauts to come. And there she is in her, that's very small, the cabin that she had. After Laika's death, Sputnik 2 continued to orbit Earth for many months. And finally, on October 14, 1958, Sputnik 2 re-entered Earth's atmosphere, and catching fire, it fell back toward Earth. The satellite burned up before ever reaching land. Thanks to Laika and many other animal heroes, space travel became a reality for humans less than 5 years later. In 1961, Russian Yuri Gagarin became the first person to launch into outer space, and Oleg Gazenko, Laika's trainer, was one of the people who helped Gagarin prepare for his launch. Laika was the only creature sent to outer space without a plan to safely return. In 2007, exactly 50 years after her launch, a statue of Laika was unveiled in Moscow to honor her courage and sacrifice.